Okay, so to introduce myself, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Natasha Stevens and I'm the Welcome and Transition Coordinator here at the Trenton MFRC. So first of all, I would just like to thank everyone for joining us tonight, including the panelists that will be presenting. Housing can be a real challenge for military families during posting season, especially as of lately. And so we wanted to find a way to help ease this challenge as much as possible. Hopefully the information you receive this evening will be helpful as you prepare to move on to your next posting. Tonight's panelists include myself on behalf of the Trenton MFRC, Sylvie Morneau with the Canadian Forces Housing Agency, Lorraine O'Quinn with Royal LePage, Scott Allison with BMO, and Major Sarah Emond, along with Master Warrant Officer Nancy Chicoine, who will speak about IR processes and important contacts on the base. So before jumping into the housing specific information, I'm just going to take the next few minutes to share some information with you about the Trenton MFRC services and programs. Our team wants you to know that we are here for you during your time at CFB Trenton and that we're able to provide assistance and support in a variety of different areas. So first and foremost, when your family gets to Trenton, please stop by the MFRC to ask any questions that you might have, take a tour of our facility, and meet our team. We'd love to meet the families in our community, and we do look forward to supporting you during your time here. We offer welcome packages, grab bags, and housewarming plants for newly arriving members and their families. The welcome packages have lots of good information about our services and programs, as well as resources within the larger community as well. During your visit here, you're welcome to purchase garbage bag tags, place your good food bag or good baby box order, or access our public computers, just to name a few things. So for more information on any of the programs I just mentioned there, such as the Good Food Bag, Good Baby Box program, just give us a call or visit our website. So one of the first services I would like to mention is our Welcome and Transition program, which I currently coordinate. And when a new member arrives at CFB Trenton or a new family, they clear in with us here at the Trenton MFRC, which allows me to send an email or call them and any family here with them to welcome them to Trenton. So for families that are leaving CFB Trenton, I do my best to help them prepare for their move and gather information about their new community. I'm able to assist with any questions that arise prior to, during, or after your move to the area. Some of the topics that I often get questions about include healthcare, accommodations, local schools, and daycares, waste removal as well, and vehicle licensing and registration, just to name a few things. At the end of each month during the active posting season, I host a presentation where we discuss the topics previously mentioned, as well as local community attractions and resources, which is always the fun part because there's lots of beautiful places to visit in the Bay of Quinte area. So this presentation is held on the last Wednesday of each month at 6 p.m. Last but certainly not least, I do want to mention the RCAF Family Connection Program, which matches military families experiencing various transitions with other military families that have been in Trenton for a while already. The volunteers are knowledgeable about the military lifestyle and local community, which makes them a great resource for new families and those experiencing deployments, for example. Another one is our employment and education program. The team is here to support military families with their career search. This service is especially useful for military spouses, youth, and veterans. Some services they're able to provide include one-on-one resume and cover letter support, skills-based workshops, assistance with post-secondary applications, and exam proctoring. Our second language training program offers military members, spouses, and civilian members of our community the opportunity to strengthen their language skills. Right now, the program offers training in French and English. However, this does change based on demand. In the past, they have also offered Spanish courses as well. There is a fee for the courses, and the amount depends on whether or not you are a military member, spouse, or civilian member of the community. Our volunteer services program offers military members, their families, and civilian members of the community the opportunity to volunteer both with us here at the Trenton MFRC and within the greater community as well. Volunteers of all ages are welcome, and proof of hours are available where required. Some volunteer opportunities that occur throughout the year, just as examples, include the Good Food Box facilitation, garden maintenance, welcome package building, and the RCAF Family Connection Program, and various events or programs held at the Trenton MFRC throughout the year. Our Deployment and Family Separation Program offers support and resources to military families when the service member is away for military-related absences, such as training, missions overseas, taskings, and more. Our coordinator offers monthly support groups, children's deployment resources, respite child care, and assistance with care packages that are shipped overseas. Our Veteran Family Program supports the transition of medically releasing service members, medically released veterans, and their families into post-service life. Their team offers one-on-one support with navigating the release process and offers programming to promote health and wellness for medically releasing members and their families. Our mental health team is composed of trained professionals that provide confidential counseling services for military family members in French and English. The team is also knowledgeable on a variety of alternative community services and resources as well. Additionally, they offer group programming that focuses on parenting, maintaining healthy relationships, developing positive life and social skills, and so much more. Our Special Needs Inclusion Program focuses on supporting individuals with special needs and their caregivers. So our coordinator can provide confidential one-on-one support, information, and referral services to families. They can also assist with navigating local resources, school meetings, and funding applications. Lastly, they offer a variety of programming for individuals with special needs and their caregivers. Our Youth Resiliency Coordinator and program that offers programming to enhance resiliency in military youth aged 6 to 18. Many of the programs focus on the development of mindfulness, stress management skills, and positive life and social skills. The program also offers certification opportunities for things such as the babysitting course, CPR and first aid, and home alone. Any inquiries about educational support, such as tutoring or post-secondary scholarships, can be directed to our Youth Resiliency Coordinator. We also offer childcare at 3 different locations in the Bay of Quinte region. There is an MFRC childcare center in Trenton, Belleville, and Petawa. And care ranges from infant to school age, just depending on the center. In Trenton and Petawa, care ranges from infant to school aged, and in Belleville, care goes up to preschool aged. So this contact information is for our main site here in Trenton. However, we can get you in touch with the correct coordinator or the correct location. We are active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and we post a lot of our updates on these platforms, so please follow us. That is all I have to share with you about the MFRC today. However, our next panelist is going to be Sylvie Morneau with the Canadian Forces Housing Agency. So I will stop sharing my presentation here.
Good evening. So as Natasha just mentioned, I'm Sylvie Morneau, and I'm the Housing Services Center Manager at the CFHA in Trenton. So I will try to see my presentation there. Oops. Okay, I'll just read it because I'm not sure.
Would you like me to share?
Oh, there we go. Do you see it now or?
Not on my end, no.
Okay.
If you would
like to share it, that would be great.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Sometimes it's funny.
So we have 548 detached and semi-detached houses here in Trenton. We don't have row house, we don't have apartment. So like I said, single and semi-detached houses. We have 3 BFA, so that is for barrier-free accommodation. If you have a family member that has special needs, we can accommodate them with these houses. So when you apply, please let us know. So the breakdown of our housing sizes, we have 130 2-bedroom houses, 325 3-bedroom houses, 92 4-bedroom houses, and we have 1 5-bedroom house. Doesn't mean, so the houses are assigned based on the size of the family, but it doesn't mean that if you have you are like a couple, for example, you will automatically get a 2-bedroom. You could also end up with a 3-bedroom, so we go with availability as well. So the rent, this is a question that we have a lot. For 2022, 2023, so the rent starts in April, it's being adjusted every year. The range starts at $815 up to $1,500 a month, and that includes sewer and water. It has nothing to do with the ranks. It is based on the size of the house, the number of bedroom, the renovation that has been done in the houses, and a number of other specification, air conditioning, etc. And the rank doesn't affect the cost of the rent or the place on the waiting list. To apply for an RHU, it is very easy. You can go on our website, Military Housing Canada. You will need 2 documents. So you will need an application form, which you can find on that site, or you can contact us and we can send you the form to fill up. And we need a copy of your posting message. On that note, we have extensive list. So as soon as you have your posting message, please send us your application right away. And your application will be considered complete. We'll add you to our list once we have those 2 documents filled and signed. And then at that point, we will send you an email to acknowledge receipt of your application, and we will let you know where you stand on the waiting list. Once we have houses available for you, we will communicate with you via email. So on that note, it is very important that you inform us of all your email addresses, work and personal, because if you're away from work, you don't want to miss an offer. Once we send you an offer, you have 72 hours, 3 business days to accept or decline the offer. We ask you that if you receive an offer and you know you will not accept the offer, please don't ignore the offer, but let us know as soon as possible. Please decline it rather than just leaving it expiring 3 days later, because we will need to advise the next family on the list as soon as possible and give them as much time as possible. And as you can see, if there's, you can imagine if there's 2 or 3 different applicants that does it, it adds up on the number of days, and yeah, so it's just easier if you decline the offer. On the same note, if you no longer need a house, you came for your house hunting trip and you found your new house, let us know as well, because when people are asking us where they stand on the list, it will make a big difference if they are, we tell them they're number 20, but in reality, 10 people ahead of them on the waiting list no longer need a house. that will have a big impact on their decision, sometimes to buy or not buy, or just wait for a house, or to have their family moved with them, or stay behind until they have an available house. So the houses are assigned on a first come, first served basis. There's no bumping. I've been asked if in different situation there's bumping. No, there's not. And if two family, for example, apply, two family of 4 people in the house, apply for a house, one on a Tuesday, one on the Wednesday, the person with that applied on the Tuesday will get the offer first. Also, we have a lot of people that apply for housing, and they're telling us that their mother-in-law or a niece or whoever extended family wants to move with them or might move with them. We assign houses by the official household size as per the military records. So if your mother-in-law is to live with you, you have to add your mother-in-law as your dependent on your records in the military, and then your posting message will indicate how many people will be moving. If your mother-in-law wants to move in with you, that's fine, but we will not assign an extra bedroom if they are not mentioned on the documents. So we have 2 main lists: priority 1 applicants and priority 2. The priority 1 applicants are the applicants that are being posted in 8 Wing. So if you're coming from the outside the area and you have no place to live, you are a priority 1. If, for example, you, and as long as you don't accept your furniture and effect at your destination location, if they're going on storage, you will remain on the priority 1. As soon as you accept your furniture and effect, or you have them move where you live, if you take an apartment or another accommodation, then you will be transferred on the priority 2 list, and your chances of obtaining RHU are really low at that point. And by the way, I should have mentioned that at the first, but the term PMQ used to be the term that we used all the time. We now refer the PMQ to RHU, which is Residential Housing Unit. Or wait list, it changes every day. It changes at this point, it changes many times a day. We can have new applicants, and we will allocate houses like on a daily basis. So if you call one day and then in 2 weeks, it's going to be different. So as of today, the list is, I don't know if you can see. Can you see the presentation, or?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so the wait list, our priority 1, family of 1 and 2, is extensive. 120 family of 1 and 2 are on that list. I'm not really talking about priority 2 because we haven't assigned a house for priority 2 member in a number of years. So as you can see, like the lists are not as long if you have 3 people in your family, 4 or 5 and more. If you are single or in a couple, you will be assigned, you will be considered a family of 2. If you are a single parent with a child, you will be considered a family of 3 because it's going to be assigned on the number of bedroom. We have a lot of calls all day long. People are very anxious, and we understand about they want to know how long it's going to be until they have RHU. We cannot say for sure. We don't know at all, except maybe for the first 2 or 3 persons. Sometimes we can tell. As soon as we have an offer, we'll contact you, but it's really, really hard to tell. And unfortunately, we cannot give you any advice on if you should buy a house or if you should wait, or it's really, really hard to predict. Right now, we have a lot of notice to vacate, and the people are still but the people are still waiting to find out where they're going to live. And we have, in most cases, no fixed date on when they will vacate the RHU. So it's a pretty challenging season in the last few years, and especially this year. We've never had such an extensive list. So please bear with us and be patient, but we can't really help you, and we can't really tell you, sorry, how long it's going to take before we have an RHU ready. And again, please advise us if you no longer need your RHU. Just a side note, we had that in the past. Sometimes people would go on social media and say, oh, I'm 9th, what are you? I'm 13th. Don't take that for granted. Just call us anytime you would like to know your position on the list, and we'll be happy to let you know. And again, if you need information, everything is on militaryhousingcanada.ca. The how to apply, who's eligible, all the information is there. If you need to contact us, please do so. We have an email address there on that website that you can search for Trenton, and you can send us your question. You can also reach us at 613-392-2811, extension 3114, or 613-965-3114. That is our line for allocation. We understand that it's a very, very stressful situation. A lot of our staff have been in this situation before, either as a military child or next spouse or military. We've been posted before. We know what it is. We understand what you're going through, and we'll try to do our best to ease your stress and facilitate the transition for you. This is it for my presentation. I don't know if anyone has questions, and I can take the questions in French as well.
Thank you very much, Sylvie. I don't see any questions there as of right now in our question and answer. Oh, okay. I do have one actually. The question is, are you able to determine the wait list for housing in other locations? Like, would you have access to that information, specifically, for example, Ottawa?
I don't have it now. Sometimes we'll have a report, like let's say every 3 months. The last time we've had a report on April 1st, and then compares all the wait list across Canada. But the best thing to do is to call that information, that CFHA in particular. We don't, we can't see it. We don't have access to the list.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So I think up next we have, if there's no other questions, up next we have Lorraine O'Quinn, and she is with Royal LePage.
Hi, everybody. Wow. What a crazy few years. I've been in real estate for 22 years here, in Quinny, and my husband's retired military, and so is my sons and some uncles and cousin, and I'm part of the honorary colonel program on base, and so really heavily involved with the military, and most of my clients are military. So I have a lot of compassion for buyers coming into Quinny the last few years, and it's been quite emotional, actually. You know, often we'll hear, you must really love this market. Houses are just flying off the shelf. No, we don't. The seller's market is very difficult. It's great for sellers, certainly, if you know they're selling and retiring or moving into a rental. But when you're a buyer, it's really hard. We've seen a lot of situations in the last couple of years where members are putting in 6, 10 plus offers, and you know, really good offers without conditions often, and not successful. So we really started seeing things change here in 2017, like drastically, because of how close we are to Toronto, you know, where we are on the 401 corridor, millennials, retirees. We're really affordable compared to our surrounding neighbors, Cobourg, Port Hope, Kingston, and areas. And of course, we got the county, and we've got Canada's largest Air Force base in Trent Severn, and so on. So lots of things to draw people to the area. So before I get into average prices and where we're seeing things right now, I don't have a presentation. I do have a few slides I'll share with you shortly, but where do we go when a buyer calls? So, you know, it's really hard. So the first part of the conversation is get your mortgage approval. And Scott will talk to that about that shortly. But, you know, not just a pre-approval, get an approval. Sometimes people are making a phone call and you may, you know, how much are you making a year, maybe off on some of the numbers and some of the debt load. And you know, when it comes time, you've got a live deal meaning accepted offer, that $40,000 income might be 30 for your spouse, or that 10,000 euro one credit card, maybe 25. So it can really throw things out of whack. So incredibly important to get an approval, not just a pre-approval. That's been a pain point. And sometimes, you know, as an agent, seeing offers coming in, protecting sellers, those are questions that I'm asking other agents, and sometimes they don't know. So you really need to coach your buyer in knowing what it is they're doing. And they may be just assuming they could use their spouse's income, and they could be working, let's say, in a job in Greenwood, and now they're leaving that job. They don't have a job, and they were thinking they were going to qualify based on their spouse's income and with their income. So really build a relationship with a mortgage specialist. And it's really important, in my opinion, to deal with someone local. You want somebody local in the Trenton location that knows what's happening in their current market. So for example, we've been, you know, a seller's market for quite some time. If somebody's come from Cold Lake in the last while where it's been a buyer's market, a mortgage broker that maybe been only in the business a year or two is not going to know what it's like when you're in a competitive market. So you want that's one of the first steps. So important. Your mortgage representative is as important as us as the realtor who's going to represent you. Secondly, when you're shopping for a realtor, don't just pick up, you know, look in the yellow pages. I think it's incredibly important that you pick a realtor based on referral, not just picking up the phone and getting whoever you got or calling the listing agent. You need to get a referral from somebody that you trust and know, and work with a full-time realtor. And again, work with a local realtor. And I've been in the business 22 years, and I've seen people coming here from, let's say, posted from Borden or Kingston or Ottawa, and have had their realtor agree to come with them to represent them in their purchase here. They don't know the market. They're not a specialist here. And in my opinion, if somebody's coming from afar with the realtor who represented them there, the realtor is not looking out for the best interests of their potential buyer. They may have done a great job in selling, but they don't know all the pros and cons of the area. So it's important that they get referred to someone local who's going to be working full-time representing that buyer. So Once you've done that homework, you connect, when someone's connecting with me right now. In the last couple of years, I've gotten really used to using Zoom, and I really like Zoom. And I like to get on the Zoom call and just get to know the client, ask a lot of questions. What are you looking for? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Are you wanting to be in the country? Are you wanting to be in town? Are you okay with well and septic? You want to really narrow it down to find out exactly what the buyer is looking for, so that you're not wasting your time out looking at properties that are not going to suit the buyer's needs. Now, typically in the past, on average, a buyer would see 10 to 12 houses. But in the last couple of years, it's kind of like, here's the house that's on the market this week. And offers are on Monday. And then you wait and you offer and potentially lose. So the good news right now is we've been seeing a change in the market with the interest rate increases, and with the, of course, a war and the new budget and the foreign investor tax. We're seeing things soften up some. So January, February, March, and the beginning of April, I was calling it a ballistic market. You had no idea where things were going to go. You put a house on the market, and it was very situational. Sometimes you can have 1 week, there's a house that's listed at 700, had 5 offers, and those 5 buyers all sold their house, and it's their 7th or 8th offer, and they're very desperate and they're very aggressive with their offers. And this has really been hard for people to understand, the price difference sometimes. The following week, you get a house come on the market, 5 buyers, they all live at home, it's their first offer, they're not desperate to buy. So you can sometimes see a really big difference in where things were selling. January, February, March, beginning of April. Now we're not seeing every house receive offers on offer day. Some people, I know one of the stats I recently seen in Durham, 95% of homes aren't seeing offers on offer day. Here, it's depends on what it is. If you have a property that's country, it's still doing incredibly well. Since the pandemic, it seems to be a lot of military people, as well as folks coming from the West, really want the country properties. So those prices are going really high. And if you have anything that's 600 and below, that's also going really, really well. The 7 to 900, not as much, but it depends on what it is. If you got a bit of a unicorn, say in town that has no rear neighbors, because that's very desired, that may see offers sooner than one that has a house in behind. Before I continue on, I just want to share kind of like where stats are. I don't know if this is, can you see that or no? Are you able to see that?
Yep, that's perfect.
Yeah. Okay, I'm so not technically inclined. So this is April stats. If you see right here, Trenton in 2020, just in Trenton itself, the average price was $340,269. In 2021, we went to $498, just rounding it off. And then in this year, we're at $651. That's Trenton. But just to speak to the country part, if you look at this, the country, Murray Ward, right? This year, Trenton is 651. If you're in the country, it's 808. And it was the same 2020, 340 was the average, 475. So country property is the most desired in all of the area. And then of course you got the breakdown of Frankfurt. I won't go through every single one of them. So I mean, if you're looking at an average price point of 651, that's pretty tough, right? If you're coming out of somewhere like Greenwood or Alberta, it's been really hard. Different if you're coming from, Ottawa or Halifax. Then we've got the Belleville average prices in 2020. There's Thurlow Ward, the country, and then Belleville proper. 378 was in town in 2020 to 527 to 706.89. That was our average price in April. Now what we're seeing is we've reached a peak and now we're on the decline. And this is good for buyers coming in. The one part that's not so good, that we're I don't know, I'll leave that up there because I don't know how not to share my screen anymore and it'll distract me, is the good news is we're starting to see houses sit longer. So, you know, it's much more hopeful that the buyer is going to be successful on a house hunting trip. So when you're coming on your house hunting trip, once you've picked your realtor, you've had your Zoom call, you've set up what it is you're looking for in a property, then it's good to get set up on what we call auto email. And auto email is going to send you anything that's new, anything that's reduced in price, and anything that becomes sold, pending, we call it, sold. And when you're looking at a listing, if you see something listed at 600, you know, if someone says to me, you know, I'm up to 600,000, where should I cut my price off at in looking? That's a tough one. I would say look up to 600 and then we'll have the conversation, because every agent has a different strategy. And we see some agents that are listing them way lower than market values, which is frustrating. Because then there's sometimes a false sense of hope, but the realtor and their client are doing what's best to serve their seller. So no judgment there, but it makes it a little more confusing. So if you got one that lowballs and then one that maybe goes too high, and then some that are listing at now, since we're seeing a change in the market, more of what the property is going to sell for. So that's where your realtor is going to have that conversation with you, right? Where do you suspect this is going to sell? So we not only are looking at what's listing on a Zoom, we're looking at what's been the recent sales. You can't look now and say this, you know, you're comparable, this what is sold for January, February. There's a change in the market. So you really need to be looking at what things are selling for with your realtor, and not wasting time on something that, you know, if your budget is 6 and it's way underpriced, and there's lots of activity and registered offers, chances are it's going to go well over list price. Deposit is also something that we should be looking at before coming. We generally are seeing 4 to 5% for the deposit. So that's been a big pain point for some, not knowing that in advance. If you have a property that you're buying at 600,000 and you're looking for, you know, a $30,000 deposit, where are those funds coming from? Sometimes you have those funds, but they're in an investment. And if the offer is worded that the money is coming in within 24 hours of acceptance, and you have to do some transfers of funds, we're asking for amendments. Maybe the seller is getting nervous that you're not going to want to follow through. So that's something that we, you know, you really should look at too. Where's your deposit coming from? How big is the deposit that's expected? Looking at recent sales. Putting a letter with your offer. Some people don't think a letter works, but if you are in competition, we've had many situations this year where we provided a letter to speak to the person's character, their financial credibility, what they liked about the house. And we've had probably half a dozen that have been accepted that weren't the highest offers. So it's not always, it's not, people think, you know, it's the highest price. Unfortunately, if there's 5 offers, you only know there's 5 offers and what companies they're coming from, but you don't know any other details. So it's not just price. Does one have commissions and the other one has no commissions? Sometimes if one is a little lower with no conditions and the seller is not a risk taker, that's the offer that's going to be accepted. And we had one this year that they were, you know, fairly well with finances, and they were quite a religious family that like to pay things forward. And there was an offer that was not the best offer, 25,500 less than the best offer, and based on the letter and who the people were, it really spoke to the homeowner, and their offer was accepted. So you really should be putting everything on the table that's going to help you be successful in making that purchase. So putting a letter together, having a healthy deposit. You know, sometimes I'm asked, well, what's the big deal? Like if I put $5,000 deposit or 30, it speaks to your financial credibility and to your commitment. If you have one offer at a $5,000 deposit, and the other one has 30, and nobody's making any changes in their offer, it could be the reason why you didn't get the house. So you really need to be looking at that. And resale, I'm really big on wanting to see military members buy in a great location that they're not going to have a problem selling if we return to a balanced market or a buyer's market. Right now, even though we're seeing a bit of a softening, we still are in a seller's market because we don't have really any new builds available either. There's still very low inventory. If you're buying a house that's not appealing in terms of location or appealing to a broad market, it could be really hard for resale when you're selling 3-4 years down the road. So when I say appeal to a broad market, what does that look like? It looks like buying in a good location, right? Not next to a bunch of commercial properties or an incredibly busy road. You know, you want to try to buy something that's going to appeal to single people, single people, older people, younger people, and families. And family tends to be our biggest market. And so if you're buying in a good location and trying to appeal to a broader market, it's going to keep your base investment safe. What you don't want is to buy in a really bad location. You know, sometimes when that happens, if you're buying in a location that's not great, then no matter what you do with the house, if we turn around into a buyer's or balanced market, and if someone's objecting to your address, it's going to be difficult to get them in, right? So that's really important, in my opinion, to make sure. And of course, you know, when we're buying, unfortunately, with military families, we're here only 2-3 years, you're always buying a house that's going to suit somebody else's needs. So you do want to have a balance. You don't want to be, you know, I'll buy this house, I hate it, but I'll sell it in a day. Or I love my house and I could be sitting on it for years when I get posted. So you want to try to find that happy medium. And in terms of when to come on a house hunting trip, that's a pretty common question. With the way the market's been in the last several years, it tends to be that majority of properties are listed on a Wednesday or a Thursday and holding out for offers until Monday or Tuesday. Now, we have been in this last couple of weeks seeing some properties not hold for offers, but the majority are. There's some cases where it's a 24-hour irrevocable for offers, 48 or 72, but it still works out. I think Saturday is your best day to come, especially if you're seeing Monday, Tuesday offers, give you the opportunity to look at what's in your price point and then be prepared to make offers. Going in without conditions is really tough. It's, you know, we've seen a lot of people burnt by no conditions. It's brutal, really. So as military members, you can have what we call a pre-inspection. So if you're seeing the house Saturday, it's one that you're interested in and you want to offer on Monday, we can look at getting you a pre-inspection, and with your BGRS number, that will be paid for. And then if you're speaking to your mortgage rep, say Scott, then you can look at seeing if they can take a copy of that listing and have it approved, and he'll speak to that about that. So that's where they come in, really important. If it's on a well and septic, I'm always nervous about that. If it's an older property and it's original septic, that can cost you a lot of money to replace. And not only are you looking at replacing a septic, but where is it going? What's it doing to the yard? And that could be $25,000 to $40,000. So if it's another military family, we do some digging. They don't always provide the paperwork, but making calls to some of the real popular companies that may have done a septic inspection, and trying to find out the flow rate, because there's nothing worse than moving in and then you're running out of water, or there's an issue with the septic. So luckily, in this last week and a half or so, we are seeing some offers that are getting accepted with conditions. This week we've had 3 that have had conditions, which is great. So I think we have to move past the pain points of seller expectation and buyer expectation. Some sellers are still expecting the high numbers, and some buyers are thinking, oh, things are changing, we can lowball. So if you're getting on these calls with a realtor and you're having all of this explained and you're actually visually seeing the comparable market analysis, you'll then be educated and be able to make a decision that would be able to suit your needs. So how am I doing? Am I over time, or I got a bit of time left?
You're doing fine. Oh, you have a few minutes left if you like.
Okay, so really important to have a good relationship with your mortgage agent and your realtor. Recommendation. Now selling, just a few little tips on there, because I think we're speaking more to a buyer that's coming in. If you're looking to sell, start preparing, quite a while in advance if you're able. Throughout the process of being here, keep your receipts if you're replacing roof and furnace and central air and whatnot. Buyers love that. It speaks to the care of the home and the credibility of the home. If you're doing repairs, paint goes a long way. I sometimes get a lot of objections like, well, I'm not painting. And painting makes a big difference. And I wouldn't have someone spend money that they're not going to get it back. And then working with someone that is like, we have now an exclusive full-time stager that works for us. And we have a first staging consult of taking things out and then staging it and having expert or professional photos done. Changing furnace filters, cleaning out HRVs, having septic pumped if you have a septic system, making sure there's nothing wrong beforehand, because nothing worse than putting your home up and realizing there's issues. And having a water test if you are on a well beforehand, so that we can make sure there's no bacteria or E. coli in the water. But if you are a homeowner right now on a well, if you don't have a UV light, it's something potentially you should look at. It's prudent, right, to have that. So I guess to maybe sum this up, if you've got, put your faith in a realtor that's working for you. If you're working with someone that's really good and reputable and has your best interests at heart, put your faith in them, that they know the areas. And if they're telling you there's something in a really bad location, trust that what they're telling you is to be the fact. Because I've noticed over the years, sometimes if we're going to look at things that are, okay, we'll look anyway. And then it's like, all right, I mean, we trust you. You've been telling us this is, I agree. But if you're looking at things that really you shouldn't be looking at, if you narrow down what you're looking for, it's just a lot more enjoyable and less frustrating. And potentially you're not losing something that would have worked for you while you're going out with looking at 10 properties that are going to be really hard resale and hurt your quality of life. So I hope that helps. I'm a fast talker. So, please reach out if you have questions. Need an email there. I'm always happy to answer questions. It's your biggest investment of your life, and you want to make sure you have a comfort level with the person that's representing you, and you know that whatever you buy, you know all the good and bad when you're making that decision to make the purchase.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. That's great. A lot of good information there.
Welcome.
I do have a couple questions for you. We already went over the average cost for housing in the areas. There was a chart for that, so that's great. And then the other question that I have here, there's two. Have you an estimate for what is a comfortable household income that one should ideally have in this area in order to afford a home? And they're asking as a first-time buyer.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tough one. That would be more of a Scott question, because you got to look at, like, what do you have saved? What is your what's going out at each month? What's your overall debt ratio, right? So you can have one person making 40,000 a year that's going to be able to afford a lot more than somebody else making 40, because they have a lot of savings, and they don't have any credit cards or car loan and whatnot. So I think it's speaking with your mortgage rep to make sure you're in a really good debt ratio space. And then, when you are told I can afford 500,000, well, what does that 500,000 look like in a monthly payment when we add our taxes? So I think that's important to really have your mortgage rep, especially as a first-time home buyer, walk you through that. And to come up with what do you feel comfortable with in your monthly payment.
Okay, great. I'll have Scott speak to that in a brief moment here. The second question I do just have for you is what about the possibility of foreclosures on the market in the area, and are they featured on a different resource from realtor.ca?
Um, so we haven't been seeing so here in Canada, it's not foreclosure because the bank is not in the business to own the property. We call foreclosure in the States. Here it's power of sale. So the bank actually doesn't own the property, but that's a whole new thing, other thing. But because people have had so much equity in their homes in the last, since 2017, I don't even think I've seen a power sale in this last 3-4 years. Prior to our busy market, we used to see quite a few bank sales, power sales, but they were never on a different site. They were always on MLS, right, our local site. But a lot of folks think that you can get a real deal on a power sale, a bank sale, but that's not the case. We're going in and giving an opinion of value, and the bank has to do their due diligence and to make sure that that property is marketed for, a reasonable period of time to get the best possible price for that home. Because really, and Scott can speak to that, you can, a seller that's been evicted from non-payment can come back and pay up and get their property back. Usually it doesn't happen because there's just so much tax and arrears and penalties and whatnot that doesn't happen. But I've had a lot of buyers in the past that have thought you can get a much better deal, but not so much your pay market value. I've seen one thing that power sales have in common. They often tend to be in really rough shape because the people who are being evicted usually are about 6 months before they become evicted. And sometimes you see cabinets stripped and things, broke. And like I've been in a lot of really holy crap power sale homes that I don't think I would want to purchase. You'd have to be overly ambitious. But, there's been some good purchases in power sales, I guess, that the handyman have really enjoyed working on. But my long-winded answer here, I think it will be a while before we start seeing power sales again with prices. If we see more of a softening and interest rates continue to go up, we'll get back to a point where there are going to be some, unfortunately. It's not nice when you see somebody lose their home, but I hope that answers that question.
I think so. Thanks so much, Lorraine. That was great. I think so. We have Scott next to speak on behalf of BMO. So I think there should be an option to stop sharing your screen. It's a green button at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, I'm because I shared my screen. Oh, wait, stop share. I found it.
There you go. That's perfect. You're great.
My
Perfect.
husband would be so proud of me. I'm not very techy. I'm going to mute myself and thank you very much. And I'm here for anybody that has questions. And thanks for all the useful information. It's really great to be part of this.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lorraine. All right, Scott, it's on to you.
All right, so I do have a presentation. I will throw that up in just a quick second, but sort of to echo what Lorraine has said, one, it's an absolute privilege to be here, to be able to be a resource to our military families, and even for me to be able to learn the extensive resources that they've got available to families coming into our community. So to be a small part of that is a great privilege. So yes, thank you for having me. With regards to the question about, an estimate for an income, there's so many factors, and as we go through it, we talk about those factors. So, we look at your income, of course, we look at your debt obligations, whether that's, a car loan or, it could be a rental property, it could be a student line of credit, it could be any number of things that build into that debt service ratio. And so it's really difficult to put a specific number to it. While Lorraine was speaking, I did try to give you an idea we look at the government's qualifying rate, and for an income that is, $10,000 monthly for a household, with zero debt, no loans, credit card payments, anything like that, we're still looking at a mortgage amount of about $430,000, but that can change based on where you're buying and the property taxes associated with it. But like, again, as a ballpark, I would say that a $10,000 a month gross income with no debt, you might be around, 425, 435 as a mortgage amount, and then you'll need to put a down payment on that, and that's where your existing savings comes in. We're looking at 5% being the starting point there. So hopefully that helps, gives you a little rough estimate. Again, each one of these calculations is really tailored to the individual or the individuals that are looking at arranging home financing. So hopefully that worked for you. I'm going to share my screen. Lorraine and I went to the same IT school, I'm guessing, equally skilled. Let's see. No. Okay, there. Share my screen. That one. How are we looking?
Great. Yep, we can see it.
Okay. Sorry, my face is so big. Okay. So yes, I am a mortgage specialist with Bank of Montreal. I have been doing home financing for over 10 years, and so have seen a few different markets in that time span, and never dull. Always seems like we're in for something new. My role in trying to make this process easy for families is all about getting prepared. And by you getting yourself having an understanding of what you're hoping to accomplish, I will work with you, and people alike like me will do the same to have you prepared so that you can have a pre-approval that is solid and is an approval, as Lorraine said, moving forward. So as I go through this presentation, I'm really looking at sort of what the process is going to be for you, so that you are prepared. And one of the things that I do like the most about Bank of Montreal and how we handle our pre-approvals is that when we're doing it, we're taking a look on a moving forward basis. So when we see, military families and there's a job change, or a spouse, for example, is having to leave their job in town, maybe as a dental hygienist, and is going to a new community and they have to arrange new employment. When we're doing our pre-approval, our credit officers are looking at that, and that approval, that pre-approval, is based on your moving forward situation. So we've considered the change of job roles, if that's applicable, as we move forward. So we are really doing it to give you peace of mind and take this part of the worry and the stress of this time away from you. So the first question again is, how are we going to plan for a down payment? Have you created savings that are going to be suitable? Is there a scenario where you're going to receive a gift from family, for example? Or if you had an existing property, is it going to be by way of the proceeds of a sale? Once we kind of know where, we start to look at how much. Are we going to put down 5% and have to consider default insurance, or 20% or 35% even? Again, that's a conversation for the borrower to have and have an understanding of sort of where that is. And that'll be one of the early parts of our conversation once we get to work. The other thing is going to be to consider bridge financing. And is that going to serve as the down payment? Again, that's bridge financing quickly is where we've got a purchase agreement, a sale agreement in place. And we're going to do a very short-term loan to bridge the transaction so that you can get into your new home ahead of the sale of your current home. Biggest thing in a pre-approval is income documents. Depending on your employment situation, We look at a number of different sort of paths. If you are in a fluctuating income, seasonal income situation, or maybe commission-based work, we look at 2 years income taxes with notice of assessments. If you're a salaried employee or full-time hourly, something like a T4 and a most recent pay stub is sufficient. If you're in a position where you are operating business for self, then we get a little more detailed information and we look at your tax returns and some details around the business. Of course, when we get to working together, that's something that we'll go through and give you a little more clarity on. But just collecting those documents, one of the biggest inconveniences sometimes can be not having access to my CRA for your income tax documents. So something just like that, registering it and getting your login ID so that you can print them when required, saves you having to wait a couple weeks for the mail to come with that PIN. I think they still have that in place. If we were looking at a multiple property situation, if you had a rental that you maintained, the property tax statement, rental agreements for that. When we're doing an application, as I said earlier, we have a credit officer that looks through the application, and it's not just a purely formula situation. We want to have investment statements handy, again, to strengthen our application. And then even just a outlined list of assets, including your property, existing properties, vehicles, investments, and day-to-day banking information. So, you know, I have a checking account at Bank of Montreal. I have a savings account at Bank of Montreal. And then, you know, me and my partner have a joint bank account, stuff like that. The next would be your liabilities, understanding where they are, as well as the payments associated with it and the frequency, whether that's a car loan, student loan, line of credit, credit cards, etc. Again, we'll go through all that in detail, but a nice early step is to collect those documents and have them in hand so we can move quickly. As you're starting to look at things, again, we encourage our borrowers to do their own research so that you have, you know, a frame of reference when we talk about you know, fixed versus variable rates, a hot topic right now as we continue to see interest rates rising, and likely we'll have raising rates for the, you know, the foreseeable future. Again, looking at default insurance, that would be through like a CMHC, Canadian Mortgage Housing. And if we're putting less than 20% down on a property, then that's going to be applicable as well, and that can impact some things. In terms of when to lock in rates, the short answer now is as soon as possible. Again, we have rate announcements. Rates can move at any point, but we know that the Bank of Canada has rate announcements coming up in June 1st, July 13th, September 7th. And each of those meetings are expected to come along with a rise in the overnight rate, whether it's 0.5% or 0.25%. So, you know, getting ahead of that right away. So as you're getting yourself prepared, it's time to reach out to your financial institution. Of course, we recommend Bank of Montreal. We want to make sure that you're confirming that your pre-approval also includes a rate hold, so that, you know, as we're going through, not only are we getting you approved for a borrowing amount, but also a borrowing rate. Okay. The other part is, again, as Lorraine mentioned, we still are in a seller's market. And so, you know, part of the experience, unfortunately, right now is that you may be into offers on several different houses, and that could take some time before you find the right one. So you want to understand how long your rate hold would be. Bank of Montreal currently is 130 days. When you get to speak with your financial institution and a specialist like myself, we're going to have a quality conversation around your plan and needs. So again, it is going to be talking about down payment and the source of that down payment. Again, Lorraine had mentioned, if your investment is currently accessible, so maybe you have mutual funds in your tax-free savings account, those can be liquidated in a few days. But if you had it in a non-redeemable GIC, whether it's in a tax-free savings or an RSP or anything like that, we need to have a plan around that and be able to prepare for that, just so that, say, a GIC doesn't roll over for another term while you're house hunting. So again, having that quality conversation around your plan and what your needs are. And then the next step absolutely is choose a realtor. And I absolutely should have put choose a local realtor, because that local realtor is going to be able to give you quality advice about our current real estate market. They're going to give you not only the real estate market as a whole, but the region, the area that you will be house hunting in, just the experience that their clients have had in this market. As we said, we've seen prices come down just a bit, but like, if you don't have a local realtor, how do you know that you're not in a position where you can squeak in a condition, whether it's an inspection or those sorts of things are so important. And unfortunately, a realtor from outside of our area isn't going to have that information necessarily. So you can't put enough value into that local knowledge. And again, having a realtor that you are comfortable with, that has experience and can provide you, again, a quality, you can have an open conversation with, is clear to you about what the current home buying experience is, and then, is knowledgeable and skilled in providing a solid experience and with a strong foundation of knowledge. In
So
terms of,
sorry to interrupt. I do apologize. Just for some reason your slides are not going through. I thought they were, but they seem to have stalled.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if what slide number you're on, but you may just have to select it on the left-hand side there. There you go. That's
okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
So how far back do I go here?
Well, I think you summarized all the information on each slide. Okay. So I think you're good. Just wherever you are now is perfect.
All right. So again, I wanted to leave as much time as I could for any questions or that. Quickly again, so Bank of Montreal is the official bank of the Canadian Defence Community. And as part of that, we have our Canadian Defence Community Banking offers, which takes care of a number of elements of your banking, whether it's your day-to-day home financing, credit cards, and of course, business banking. So yeah, that's, I'm happy to, my information is available there, and happy to answer any questions if there are. Oh.
I think so far I don't see any questions coming up in the chat, but I will definitely keep an eye on it. And if something does come up, I will let you know. Thank you so much, Scott. That was great. Really good information for families there.
Thank you.
Awesome. So next up, I actually do have Nancy and Sarah with us. And I'm actually, I think, able to promote Nancy to a panelist. She is here. She's just an attendee. So I'm going to try and do that so that she can speak as well with you, Sarah. If not, I can always allow her to talk as well at the end. I think she's joining us there.
I'm hoping it's not too noisy. I'm sitting outside.
That's okay.
Gymnastics tonight.
No problem.
Are you able to bring up my presentation?
Absolutely. I'm just waiting for, I see Nancy's just connecting to audio. So I just want to make sure she connects. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. It seems like she might be struggling to connect to audio. I'll go ahead and share your presentation and you can go ahead and get started, and hopefully she's able to join in as well. Okay, so I'm just going to share.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Major Sarah Mond, and I do have MWO Nancy Chicoine with me tonight. She's just connecting. And so we're the two main points of contacts for all things relocation coordination on the base side. So next slide, please, Natasha.
Sorry there, just one moment.
Perfect.
Oh.
All right. So your first step, whether you're posted in or out, is going to be to read the CAF relocation directive. It's available if you do a Google search with just CAF relocation directive. It comes up. It's available on the internet. It's not something that members need to get from work. It's something anyone can look at home. It will have all your policy information. And then your second step is to register with BGRS. They're our contracted move provider, and they're your first point of contact for questions you have about the policy and your move and all that. And then on the base side, we still do, though, your actual furniture and effects move. So we have a furniture and effects cell, and their email address is there on the presentation, as well as their phone number. There where you send your move request form, which is your D&D 4443. And you need to send this in the policy. It does say 14 days, but with changes in our contract, it really is a minimum of 3 weeks in advance of when you want to move. And but please don't leave it to that. That's the absolute drop dead, and you may not get a move if you do that. There's been changes, and now we're not guaranteed to be able to give everyone their preferred move dates. So that's something you have to consider and get it in and get it booked as soon as you have like a possession or a date of when you need to move. So send it into that email address, and so that they can get you set up. And then BGRS is going to ask you for something called a themes report, and that's your furniture's in effect. I can't remember what the A stand for, but anyways, it's your move summary, proof that you've moved and how much your move weighed, and you need that for some of your benefits. It's going to get emailed to you directly, so you don't need to contact us about it a couple weeks after your move, once you arrive at your new location. And then if you need to reach the local base coordinator, so we have a generic mailbox so that it's always monitored by a whole team of people, even if we're away. And so that's there on your screen. It's 8WG Trenton relocation at forces.gc.ca. We kindly ask that you try to resolve your policy questions through BGRS first, and then reach out to us. Like, we are happy to help you if you're really stuck with the policy, but our primary focus is actually to work on adjudications that have to go to DCBA, which is Director of Compensation Benefits, or things that require local authority approval for things that are beyond the normal scope of the policy. So that's your two main points that most people need. Next slide, please, Natasha. And then, so local authorities. In the Canadian Forces Relocation Directive, it says a lot of local authorities, and people assume that that's their CO. It's actually not your CO for most things. It's the base administration officer, who is now the deputy wing commander here in Trenton, or their delegates, which is myself and another Major Janice Impel. So there is a specified form that you need to fill out, and you can request that form by emailing us, and we will be able to give you that approval. And those things are like, if you have to go on a house hunt last minute, or if you had additional pack load days because, let's say, the packers didn't show up in time, or your load took longer because, you know, as per the policy, they have to do it between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Sometimes they can't get everything done because they didn't have workers to your house till 3 p.m. So we can authorize additional days. We just have to do it on this form. And so that's not the unit CO, but it goes through us. You can also contact us if you think you're going to be in a situation where you're going to need those extended approvals, and we can advise you on what can be approved in advance or what can only be approved after the fact, and just kind of let you know what forms you're going to need and have you all set up so you have an idea of what you're looking at. IL&M, which is your interim lodgings, meals, and miscellaneous, is really the biggest, hottest thing right now, because that's your time that you go from house 1 to house 2. And So you get the time to travel out of your core entitlements. And then let's say you're sitting waiting for possession of the new home. You have 10 days technically. Anything beyond 10 days is not covered unless it's not your fault. And I have to clarify that unfortunately, possession dates of a home is not deemed outside of your control. And I wish we could change that policy, but that is well above our hands. It's not even controlled actually by the military. It's controlled by Treasury Board. And so we can only approve additional time if it's because your move is unable to be delivered, or there is a contracting issue, there is a strike of some sort. Like the policy is very clear about what is deemed outside of members' control. So it pains me to say a lot of them do get denied unless it's because your furniture and effects weren't available to be delivered. So just be aware of that. And we will work with you to try to find creative solutions if we can. But there is a lot of black and white limitations in the policy. So next slide, please, Natasha. So, and then the next big inquiry people ask is, well, what do I need to do if I need to come on IR, or if I'm going to come for those 6 months of unaccompanied while I'm awaiting my home, like let's say you're on the CFHA wait list for an RHU. You may choose, like the CAF-RD policy provides for 6 months of unaccompanied. So we treat unaccompanied during the first 6 months and IR very similarly here. So you need to send an email. I just realized the presentation doesn't have it right, but it's plus 8 wing OR, so 8WG OR at forces.gc.ca, I believe. And they will be able to direct you to our IR clerk. You can either, there is limited accommodations on the base. I'm not going to say unlimited right now. It is, there is availability, but it's not an unlimited pot because we're short accommodations all over. It is just a hotel room if you're on base. It's not a kitchen or an apartment or anything like that. It is your responsibility to make arrangements for that by contacting base accommodations if you wish to secure a room on base. Otherwise, it's your responsibility to find a room. Commercial lodging, it has to be a 1-bedroom unit. It cannot be a 2-bedroom. It cannot be a 3-bedroom. It can be less than a 1-bedroom, or it can be a 1+ den. So it's all based on what's written on your lease or your agreement that you have, and you're entitled to a maximum reimbursement for that commercial lodgings of $1,500 a month plus $100 for parking. That has to also include your furniture rentals, and you're responsible for your utilities and anything else that wouldn't be included in that. But I want to just stress that if you sign a 1-year lease, because that's the law in Ontario, and you are either moved or sent on tasking and you need to break that lease, there is no lease liability coverage for members on IR. That's your responsibility to either figure out a way to sublet that or to convince a landlord to let you out of that, because there is no benefit for that for IR members. So that kind of covers the military side of things. MW Chicoine, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that. I can see you on here.
I may have some volume now. Can you hear me?
No, we hear you.
Oh, wonderful. I just have a couple of things that I'd like to go over. First of all, just with regards to the queries for BGRS. So when in doubt, the address, the email address is there. Just send an email and ask. It's never an issue if you're not getting responses. I know there's been a lot of delays in getting responses from BGRS. So when in doubt, just send me an email and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And if it's just a matter of policy clarification or you know, we always want you to go through BGRS first, but you know, sometimes if they're taking a few days to respond and you don't have the time to wait, then just give me a call or send an email to that email address enclosed there. The only other point I wanted to make was on the move of your household goods and effects. There's quite a few things that have come up recently. One of the big points to make is, like Major Iman said, get your application in with a minimum of 3 weeks. But also just a few points that I wanted to add there is all moves are approved with a shipment of up to 20,000 pounds. If your estimation comes in at over 20,000 pounds, contact your base traffic and let them know. They will ask you to reduce the weight, or you'll end up paying for the additional weight. So just in mind when you get your weight estimate. The other point was, as soon as you get to your new destination, make sure you reach out to your F&E office. As soon as you arrive, if there's any issues or there's any concerns with your driver or delivery, contact your F&E section as soon as possible. The other point was, if the moving company, this is a very common question, the moving company wants to deliver your F&E on a Saturday, the Crown or DND expects you to accept it if you have the key to your property. So the moving company will go right to storage if you do not accept your shipment, regardless if it's a Saturday or not. And then you will most likely be on the hook for that storage, and then to have your F&E shipped back to you. So if it is a Saturday and you have the key for your property, accept your delivery, and the unpacking services will be completed on the next business day. So that's a Saturday, next business day would be a Monday. Somebody would show up to your residence to unpack. Last point is talk to your driver. So, you know, the driver's going to be there when they're loading up your home. Get their name, get their cell number, stay in touch with them. If there's any delays, you know, every driver and every move that I've ever had, we've always maintained that communication, and it worked out really well. So don't be shy, get your driver's info or give them your cell number and stay in touch. 2 to 3 weeks after your F&E has been delivered, you'll need to contact your F&E office at destination to request your household good and effects form. That form is known as your FEEMS form, and you will need that for BGRF. I know that's a lot of quick information there, but if there's any questions regarding the F&E portion or the move portion or the BGRF portion, you can reach out anytime to that email address included. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much to you both for that presentation on some BGRS information. I think that's will be really helpful for families. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our webinar this evening. I don't believe there are any other questions that are coming up. So first and foremost, I would really like to thank all of the panelists for joining us tonight. I think that the information shared tonight will be super helpful for all families. And for anyone who's viewing the webinar, whether it's live or at a later date, please feel free to reach out to anyone here with your questions. And as well, also to myself here at the MFRC, I can connect you with any of the panelists that you've heard from this evening. All right, thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you all have a good evening.